Hi, I'm Kimile, and this is Heal with Kimile podcast. I've had some people ask me recently how they should view things and why is that important. I wrote a book called Reframing Your Life, A Guide to Becoming Invincible, and it was one of the cornerstone precepts that I had about writing my book, and it was helping people reframe their experiences, reframe themselves, reframe how they see the world. Because I do believe that how you perceive something, your perspective of it, how you view it, how you feel it's all coming from you, right? You're generating from your perspective, like your life is generated, your results are given by your perception and perspective of yourself, of your life, of the world. And one of my favorite things about Albert Einstein was some of the questions that his students would ask him. And one of his students asked him, "What's the most important question to ask you?" And he said to his student, "Am I safe here? Am I safe here?" I would take that for everybody. Are you safe in your world? Or how are you in your life? Do you feel safe on the planet? Do you feel safe in your home? If you feel safe here, then your perspective is generating self-expression and you are safe. So you can be yourself. You can be free to express yourself. There's no limitation. But if you're not safe, if you live in an unsafe world, if your environment's unsafe, it can hamper your authenticity, your self-expression, how you get to be free in the world. If you're not safe in your environment, you're not safe here, as Albert Einstein said, then you're not safe to be you. And if you're always on guard and worried about your survival, a lot of clients that I work with, the first thing we deal with is your survival at stake? Meaning, can you afford things? How's your health? Like, you have to first deal with survival, anything, before you can really grow and expand yourself, by the way. So if your survival isn't handled, or you've got trauma in relationships, if you don't feel like you're in a safe space, then you really can't create anything new. It's just too difficult. You don't have the bandwidth for that. Most people don't, right? But if you are safe and you know you're safe, your perspective is you can really explore and learn and try things on and make mistakes. And, if you're safe here, then what's wrong? Nothing's wrong here. And life is just what you're doing. Life is life. And there's been studies, you guys have probably seen all those studies about positive thinkers. And, if you really do see the glass half full, life is a lot easier for people and less stress, things like that. But I am a firm believer in reframing your life, in reframing yourself, in reframing your perspective. I think it was also Wayne Dyer that said, it isn't the problem itself, it's how you see the problem. So if you can see the problem differently, if you don't see it as a problem, it's just what is. It is life in general. It's normal, whatever. There's nothing, quote, wrong here. So if there's nothing, quote, wrong here, then there isn't a need to panic. You don't have to be upset by it, which is what Marcus Aurelius said was, something bad happens and you are unharmed by it. That's the way to frame that, the way to see that. So it isn't like you have to be upset by things. It doesn't have to upset you, which again, I firmly believe. I think we have a choice. I think we have a choice in how to frame things, how to see things, how to perceive things. I believe when the moment happens of a crisis, we have the ability to choose our response. And there's always that moment of pause. And as we pause in that moment, if you come from, oh my God, it's bad, sick, and wrong, it's awful, or, okay, how am I going to handle this? Like you're proactive instead of reactive. If you can choose your response and not lose your head, not go out of control, choose your words, choose your response, choose how you take action, keep your emotions, in check. I was listening to something, and I can't remember the man that said this, but he said, what's the most important thing to work on as a human being? And he said emotional regulation, to regulate your emotions. And I think it had brain science to do with it. And as a practitioner working with people all day long for, over 30 years, I do see that some people see things, the glass half full or the glass half empty. They personalize stuff. And if that's your frame, is everything's about you, and you take everything personal and you're offended by, now you're a victim all the time. And you're dealing with always being hurt. Well, how safe are you there? What's your perspective of life there? If you're the victim of everybody or everything, or life's out to get me, if that's your perspective, wow. I mean, everything's going to feel like a personal affront. If you're the victim and your perspective is, I can't handle things, I can't deal with things, Okay, wow, what's that going to look like? How is that going to generate for you? How are you going to experience life? And there's studies where children are raised by the same parents and yet they're radically different people. And I do think that you really can't raise children, even if they're siblings, the same exact way. Maybe the rules were the same, the house was the same, but really, are we the same parents for each child exactly? I don't think so. I don't think so. But it's also up to the child on how they frame it, how they perceive it. And if their perception is that it's fair and it's awesome and it's wonderful, great. If their perception is that something's wrong here, then for them, they're a victim or they're picked on. Or, again, what is your frame for yourself? How do you perceive you? What was your first job in your life? So if your first job in your life was make mommy happy, then, you probably perceived that you could, or you could have, you regulate yourself and make sure you're there for other people. You create a codependency and a pleaser mentality. But that's your frame, is you want to make people happy and okay. But what motivated that? Not wanting to see them in pain, knowing that you could make them happy. We all get motivated by interesting things, right? But again, what is your frame? How do you perceive it? If you come from the space of, I can do it, I'll figure it out, I got it, it's going to work out for me. Or if you come from the space of, I'm not safe here, I'm not doing well here, I can't make it happen here. You're right. You're right on both accounts. You'll be resourceful or you'll be unresourceful. You'll be successful or you'll be unsuccessful. It really is a matter of how you choose to handle whatever life throws at you. Look, life's throwing curveballs all the time. Everyone on this planet is here to learn and die. I mean, that's just kind of it. We're here. I think life's a school to me. And what if life is doing things for us, not to us? And again, in that perspective, is this really, something that's trying to break me or build me? And am I going to let it break me or am I going to let it build me? So with everything you're going through, and everyone's got stuff they're dealing with. I haven't met anybody on the planet ever that's got nothing going on. Everybody's got something going on, especially the people that come to see me. So something's going on. They're in a challenge. They've lost a loved one. Their husband was just diagnosed with something. They're going to die. Like, life is lifing on everybody. Really, at that moment, that choice point, there is a choice point when you say, okay, this is here now. This is happening now. And even if it's a trauma, like, some sort of, crisis and, car wreck or something, it happens so fast. But again, there's going to be a moment in time when you get to choose how you're going to handle or respond to whatever just happened. When that does occur, when life occurs like that, what is your choice? Where do you come from? Right. And look, I'm not saying that childhood was always safe and great. Maybe your childhood was sucky and, you had a lot of trauma and abuse and you weren't safe there. But know that, and you can create safety now. You can create some sort of breakthrough now in that. Because if your perception of yourself or life is, it's always unfair, I never get what I want, trust me, you're going to continue to create from that space. And you'll get results that validate exactly what you think and what you believe. But if you feel safe here, if you create feeling safe here, and you know that you can do the right thing at the right moment, that you trust yourself, and maybe you trust the universe. You don't always trust people, but you feel safe, you can be authentic and do the best you can. And that's where, if you're not perfect, you give yourself grace. So I'm not this, positive affirmations and constantly having to feed my brain with positive stuff. I don't live in that world. But I do live in the world of, just when something happens, I want to pause and I want to breathe in and go, okay, what are my options? What can I choose? That choice point of how you handle the situation, that's the identifier. That kind of tells us exactly who we are in the world. And we have the ability to have the choice to be proactive or reactive. And if we're going to be reactive, we don't have a choice. We just continue to go into autopilot kind of stuff. People that are autopilot are very predictable, by the way. Then their life is predictable. Their past is their future. And I think that's been proven over and over. But at some point, if you know you have a choice to make, if you could make a choice to react or act differently, to respond differently, what would you choose if you could? And I say there is a moment when you get to be at choice. You are not predicted. You are not programmed. You are not your past. You don't have to live like, well, that's all I can be. That's, my upbringing. That's how I am. No, it's a choice. When you say it like that, you're committing to it even further. But what if you could actually change and have a new perspective of yourself or other people? what would that bring to your world? What would you build with that? What's possible, And this is where dreams, this is where motivations, this is where inspiration comes from. You have a choice. You really do have a choice in how you respond to life. And if your perspective, again, that solid space that you are on the inside, it's going to work out. I always, think the universe is doing something for me here. It's conspiring in my favor. Things usually work out for me. I've seen it. I believe it. Things have been tough, but man, I'm built by that. I'm of the opinion that we all have a deck of cards, and we don't, always have the best hand, but it's how we play it. It's how we respond to life that really ultimately matters. And so if you can get in that perspective, you get in that mindset where you choose to not be a victim of anything. You don't have to be a victim of anything in life. It doesn't have to bother you. It doesn't have to upset you. It doesn't have to ruin you. You're co-creating the result. You get to respond how you're going to respond. That is your co-creation of it. Whether you react to it, you're crying, you're sad, you're positive, whatever it is, attitude is probably everything in this conversation. So if you've got anything you're dealing with and something comes up for you that you kind of feel like, I want to be positive in how I handle it, I want to handle it the best way I can, you can look at my book. I've got a book online. It's called Reframing Your Life. It's a guide to becoming invincible. It's on my website, and that's healwithkimile.com, HEAL with KIMILE.com. And you can read my book. It's called Reframing Your Life, a guide to becoming invincible. And it's all about this conversation of what is your perspective? Where do you come from in life at your core? And if you can change anything, change how you regulate your emotions, your reactions, your choices, and you come from a space of, I am safe here, and this is happening for me, not to me, and I can handle it. I can handle it. Like, I'm not going to be upset by it, or I don't have to be ruined by it. I have a choice and a say in how life impacts me. If you want to take that on, embrace more power for yourself and reframe you to yourself, that's possible. That's positive, and it's possible. And if you'd like help with that, you know where to find me, healwithkimile.com. Thanks for listening. Bye now.